Now we have Task6 DevSecOps culture, promote autonomy of teams, whether it is a large organization or a startup in hypergrowth. The only way to not leave security behind is promoting autonomy of teams. This can be done by automating processes that fit seamlessly with the development pipeline until security tests become just another type of test, like unit testing, smoke bombs, etc. Leading by example and promoting education like creating playbooks, runbooks to spot these flaws and fix them, understand the risk, and build confidence in engineers to make the secure decision independently. The ratio of developers, platform, infrastructure engineers won't be the same as the security engineers, and we must understand they can't be in every conversation. Security should act as a supporting function that focuses on building trust and creating as much overlap in knowledge between teams as possible. Visibility and transparency. For every tool being introduced or practiced, there needs to be a supporting process that provides visibility and promotes transparency to other teams. This means that if we want to build autonomy in groups, as mentioned earlier, they need to have visibility on the security state of the service they own or maintain. For example, a dashboard visualizes the number of security flaws by the criticality of the service. This helps prioritize accordingly so tasks don't get lost in the backlog or noise, and they can tackle flaws at the right time. The security state measures depends on the company, but it could be the number of high findings of a service might or might not have, which determine if it is in a good security state. Transparency would refer to introducing tools and practices that are accessible to teams. For example, if you present a check before merging code and the review doesn't pass and shows a message saying signature of possible code injection flaw detected, please remediate. The developer or engineer should have access to that tool that is flagging that message. These analysis tools that flag those alerts have the UI that specifies the line in code where it is affected. They include a definition and a remediation suggestion with the steps. In this example, a developer role can be created so that they have access to more information, which will be promoting education and autonomy by extending transparency that traditionally was only accessible by security teams. Account for flexibility thanks to understanding empathy. As mentioned earlier, instilling security in DevOps processes with visibility and transparency is no easy task. There is a factor that can determine success, the level of understanding and empathy. This means that the definition of risk for security teams is unequivocal, but for other teams, risk can be different and just as precise for them. This doesn't only apply to risk but an umbrella of things. It ramifies into what they prioritize, how they work, and what they think is important enough to leave aside a project with a tight deadline to fix a bug. There is no magic tool or process for everyone. It is essential to understand how developers, engineers work, what they know to be a risk, and what they prioritize. If you know their perspective, it's easier to build a process that finds common ground on and has a higher chance to work versus adding another tool that creates more noise and stress for everyone. This understanding builds perspective, which accounts for empathy for how other teams work and builds a process that accounts for flexibility. This is needed because every situation might be different, deadlines might be different, and bandwidth can change over time. As a DevSecOps engineer, suppose you took the time to understand how a team owns a service. In that case, that will have a security scanner added to its development process. Worked and viewed priority, it will be easier to get their buy-in and demonstrate a value. For example, if it's a platform team and owns an internal service but a core service, a risk will be a bug that disrupts the service, not a potential injection that lives behind a proxy. You will need internal credentials to exploit it. You can turn the scanners or add a triaging process that tackles the question they would ask themselves, and this will in turn build trust versus crying wolf and security process being questioned. How can you make security scalable so it's not left behind when startups face hypergrowth or in large corporation? Make security scalable. Promote autonomy of teams. How can you support teams in understanding risk and education in security flaws? By visibility and transparency. What are the key factors of successfully instilling security in the development process? What are the key factors to successfully instill security in the development process by accounting for flexibility? Understanding and empathy. empathy. That's it for this task.